Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. As always, it is great to be back. We are unedited, unfiltered, and always, we are going raw. My name is Joey.
And I'm Eric, and we're your hosts, and welcome to Raw Mind. Whoa, man. So
Doing it big.
I think,
Episode 25.
yeah, buddy. Um, I think this is gonna be a very interesting one for us. Definitely starting something a little different here. Um, you
Uh, yeah, and I'm actually excited about it. I think it's definitely something that we need to talk about.
definitely,
Uh, I think, especially in tonight's episode on this topic, I think majority of the people out there live in
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Right.
definitely,
So it's a big one for sure. You know, I lived in it for years,
hmm
and so have you.
yeah,
And it's it's a tough one to get through. You know, and all these things that happen to us in our lives and these traumas and yeah, we don't want to believe half of it or accept it.
yeah,
You know, so we're in denial. You know, with all these things that happen, right? So
yeah. And what we're gonna speak on is the role of denial in men's mental health. Pretty much, that's what we're gonna start this off with. We're gonna do the next couple episodes. We're gonna touch on the different stages of grief. Obviously, like we said, we're gonna deal with denial first. You know, it's the very first stage that anybody goes through. Grief, and we're not just talking about death too, man. You can grieve a job. You know, your favorite sport. You know, something happens and you can't play it anymore. You know, there's all different types of grief. Relationships.
yeah, yeah, loss of a loved one,
Yeah,
breakup,
yeah, definitely. And then obviously death too, right?
yeah, friendships, you name it. There's all different levels, and we all deal with it or have had to deal with it in some form or another.
Yeah,
You know, and especially when things that happen to you that are extremely painful and or hurtful, or you don't want to accept it, so you're in denial of it.
yeah,
You don't want to believe it.
yeah,
You don't want to believe that this has happened to you. You don't want to believe that that person's gone.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's not your reality
And
anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's definitely not your reality, and it's a tough pill to swallow, especially when you go through loss of loved ones and breakups. It's extremely difficult.
yeah,
You know, you and because you feel that way, you don't want to accept it, and you're in total denial of, you can't believe that person would do that to you, or you can't believe that I was talking to that person yesterday and now they're gone.
yeah, yeah,
Right. So it's it, it's a it's definitely a hard pill to swallow and to get through is the denial stage
hmm
of that first stage.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and like Eric touched on is these five stages. You know, me reading back of what these five stages were and me thinking back to when I was in the the time of my life where I was dealing with a lot of grief. I'm like, yep, I definitely went through every one of those,
hmm
plus more, right?
yeah.
So,
Well,
but
when you're
that
in
first,
that,
the
bro.
first,
Sorry,
yeah,
I'm just saying when you're in that though, it's like, it's it everything piles on even more and more, so it's even more 100%. You know what I mean? You're fighting your own mental health. Like that's why I was just trying to touch on that. Like what you said is, and more. I mean, it's you're fighting your own self in your head, really, right? You're your own worst enemy at that point. Like you said, denial, man. You can't believe it's real. Sorry, I didn't mean
yeah.
I just wanted to touch on that because you brought that up
No,
there.
no, that's 100%, and you're a million percent correct,
Yeah,
right? Because you're battling yourself,
yeah,
right? You're having conversations with yourself daily, and you're creating, well, even for me, like I created my own anxiety sometimes,
Mm.
fighting myself, having conversations with myself,
Yeah.
telling stories in my head, like literally one person talking to another, but it's myself
Mhm.
battling, and it was a constant. It weighed me down. It caused my anxiety. It pushed me into farther depression.
Mm.
So it's denial is it's a heavy it's a heavy weight to carry,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's the start to
But
the to fucking everything else that follows behind it, right? That's it leads the charge, I guess you could say. So,
1,000,000%, and
mm,
that's why they made that as your first stage,
yeah.
because everyone goes through that
Yeah.
when these things happen. Especially when you're that hurt, you don't want to believe it.
Yeah.
There's no way that they could do that to me. There's no way that they're gone. There's no way
Yeah.
that this is over.
Even sobriety too, right? Denial, that's the first too. You got to get, I do have a problem. You got to get past that, right? It's denial. No, I don't. No, I don't. But really, you do. I mean, even sobriety, it's the first thing.
Well, especially with people who have addiction problems and alcoholics and et cetera, is
Hmm.
they don't want the help because they don't think they need it,
Yeah.
because they're in denial.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem. I only do this on the weekends. Like, yeah, but even if it is the weekend, because I know a lot of people who grew up with who do only do that stuff on the weekends, but they're weekend warriors. Like, that's still a problem.
Yeah.
You're a binge drinker. You're a binge addict basically on the weekends.
Hmm.
Like, that's still, you don't have to do it every day, as whether it's drugs or alcohol, for it to be a problem,
Yeah.
right? But when you're, because I knew people that before they got paid, I'm buying a fucking 8 ball, I'm buying this, and I'm fucking
Hmm.
partying all week, every single time. That's a fucking problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and if you're going broke doing these things, like, that's a problem. And then, like, well, you look out for your friends, or you see that, like, hey man, like, I think you really need to slow it down. Well, no, I don't have a problem. I
Yeah.
go to work,
Yeah.
and there's different levels, right, of
Yeah.
the denial.
I was there,
So,
man. I would fucking go out party. Next morning, I would wake up and like, holy fuck, my wallet, man, it's gone. All my money's gone. And it's a waste, really. At the end of the day, it's a big waste of money, man.
but that's just one thing. But
Yeah.
it's we, and then some people refuse to look at their own lives in general, and they're not happy, but they're in denial because they don't want to believe that. Even denial, and like with self-doubt, you don't want to believe in yourself that you can do better, you can get a better job. You're in denial and telling yourself you can't do this and you can't do that because of this. Well, when you live in that denial, how do you expect to change as
Hmm.
well,
Hmm.
right? So,
Yeah.
but a lot of people, it's a it's definitely a heavy weight to carry,
Yeah.
you know
Well, before we
but
start, man, I have to say though, like this is okay. These what you feel and what you go through in these things is normal though. It's normal to feel denial, and the depression and the anger, and everything else that follows behind that. Like it's normal. Like you do have to go through these things, especially in grief. Like when someone passes away, you have to go through these stages. You can't go around them. You have to go through them. It's just part of the whole healing journey, right? So like don't feel excluded like, "Oh, why am I going through this?" Like it happens. I went through it when Jules passed away, you know? So it's like you have to do it. You can't go around it. There's no hiding from it. You can't go over it. You got to go through it. You got to feel it and then you got to move on. Like I said, if you just wait around and oh poor me and all this and play victim, you're gonna get left behind. Like I said, the world keeps on moving, man, and if you don't move with it, you're gonna get left behind. So it's okay to feel these things, and that's why we're bringing them up and we're talking about this is because these are normal things that we go through. that we as human beings.
Well, of course, that just like you said, we're human beings.
Yeah.
We have emotions. Doesn't matter if you're the biggest tattied up jack dude to whoever. It doesn't matter. We have emotions. We have, you know, feelings.
Yeah.
Whether and the reason we talk about this and do this show as well is because most people won't talk about their feelings and won't talk about their what's going on with them, and because they're in denial. Right, they don't want to believe that this happened to them when they were a child. They don't want to believe that they lost their mother. They don't want to believe these things, and they're in denial. And then they become more in denial with themselves because they don't want to reach out and get that help because they're, oh, I'm okay, I'll just go to work, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But you're in denial in yourself on how you're truly feeling and what you're struggling with, right? So
Yeah.
there's all different levels to it, right? So it's a tough one, man. It's definitely a tough one. But like you said, we're human beings, and it is normal,
Mm-hmm.
especially in those kind of situations, right? Because you
Yeah.
don't want to believe that you're hurt. You're hurting.
Yeah.
You're in pain. You're crying every day. You're sad, and you don't want to feel that way. So you try to push that down, and that's where the denial comes from because you don't want to believe that.
Yeah.
You don't want to believe that you're hurting like that. You don't want to believe that they're gone. But in it, it also can make yourself worse because now you're not trying to get that help. You're not reaching out, and that's what with most people is they stay in denial for so long that they live in a constant state of depression because that's where some of that victim mentality comes out, and because they don't want to believe that they're messed up or they need help, and they just stay in denial.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't have problems. I'm fine. I'm good.
Yeah.
I take care of my kids. I go to work. But man, but they're the ones that's struggling the most.
Mm. Like,
But they're in denial.
you know, autopilot, like you said, man. You know,
Yeah,
a lot of
I ran the
well, a lot of people in that fight or fight mode. You know what I mean? That's when like you kick into autopilot. Is you're just moving forward or running away. You're not really dealing with the issue at hand. I guess you could say.
100% is not dealing with it, and then like you said, I think in the beginning is like it just starts to pack on other things because you're
Mhm.
not dealing with that now because this is life. And no matter how good your life is, something's going to be there around the corner to kick you in the head
Yep.
from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And all these other things that you push down and then you're in denial about, well, now you've stacked this on top of that and this,
Yeah.
just like I did for years. And then it blew up in my face. And then that's when people hit that rock bottom. And because they never dealt with and they were in so much denial with that happened or this that happened to them or whatever it is, that ends up making themselves worse because they sat in it for too long and they refuse to believe that they are messed up or they do need help or that did happen.
Yeah.
So they just distract themselves like we do as humans, like, well, I just work more. Or some people, I just drink every day.
Yeah.
And those temporary states, and that's where that comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Because they feel better about themselves when they do this or they drink this or they smoke that. So they just keep doing it because they're living in denial every day.
Mm-hmm. And then they get complacent, right? Then you just get complacent, and then you just live in that because that's what you know. That's what's easy for you, and you know you got to get uncomfortable. That's how you grow is getting uncomfortable. Test yourself. But let's get into a little bit here. So, when would you say denial has affected you the most, like in a situation, and what did it do to you? Like, how did it make you feel?
I was thinking about that before we started talking tonight about times in my life and the denial
Mm-hmm.
in that stage. And, you know, like we said earlier, is it comes in all different levels and things that happen to you and whatever it may be. And there's been a lot of things that has put me in that denial stage in my life. And the hardest one for me was when I lost my son. I think we talked about it quite a few episodes ago briefly. And
Mhm.
basically, long story short, you know, when I was about 22 years old, so 20 years ago, I dated a girl. She had a kid and thought it was mine for 2 years. Called me dad, called my mom and grandma. He was my whole world. And I went away for work one time for a week, found out she was cheating. In the argument, of course, when I found out, because you're upset, you're pissed off, how could you do this, whatever. By the way, that kid's not yours. And after 2 years, hearing that all of a sudden that might not be my son was obviously devastating.
Oh,
And
yeah, man.
for my birthday, my mom got me the DNA test, and that was the letter I got on my birthday. And I seen my mom, and she gave me that letter, and it turns out that he was not my son.
Mhm.
So that day, in a blink of an eye, I lost my son. Now, even when I got that piece of paper, as hurt as I was, I didn't want to believe that he wasn't my son because he called me dad.
Mhm.
That was my boy. And I told her that I don't care what this piece of paper says. He's still my son. And I still want to take him on the weekends, whatever I can, because, that he knows me as dad. And that day I opened that piece of paper, I never seen him again because there was nothing I can do. She wouldn't let me see him
Mhm.
because now she's with the guy she cheated on me with, and it was interfering now with her new life, and going through that, I that denial stage, when you have a child and then all of a sudden you're told he's not yours, and the blink of an eye you can't see him anymore. Literally overnight, it was like a death, and I didn't want to believe that piece of paper. I couldn't believe I was in such denial that she could even do that to me, let alone to the kid.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't want to believe that I'm not a dad anymore
Mhm.
because of a piece of paper, and it was obviously it was hard, man. And yeah, that's I just couldn't
How did it make you
accept.
feel though? Like, how did it make you like? What were you going through? Like, what were your emotions, if you can recall?
Oh, I can recall. I think the first day, um, I'm not proud, but because I was so angry and yet so broken at the same time. I had like angry tears,
Mhm.
but it was like I was shaking because I didn't know what to do with myself. Like I was just completely gone, but I was there. And I remember, and of course, this is 20 years ago, so I'm a lot younger and not knowing how to deal with certain things and the tools that we've, picked up along the way as we get older. But
Yeah.
I, I straight to the liquor store, and of course, I'm drinking and driving. I'm crying while I'm driving. I'm shaking violently. I'm gagging, dry heaving,
Yeah, your emotions and all are
and
on shock pretty much, right? You're running on, like adrenaline.
I'm like screaming in my
Mhm.
car in anger, trying to rip my steering wheel off. To half an hour later, bawling
Mhm.
in my car so bad that I couldn't even, like, my eyes were just filled with so much water that I couldn't even see, you know what I mean, like in front of me. And it was literally like a back and forth of just screaming rage, like I just wanted to kill people.
Mm-hmm.
And then literally a half an hour later, that rage just started breaking me down, and I just fell. And I I I couldn't. It was I couldn't accept that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to accept that. How can you accept that? Like that was your son,
Yeah.
and he's gone, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Let me ask you a hard question
So
here. Did you ever in that moment though too feel like a bit of relief? You know, because like, this woman cheated on you. You found that it's not the kid, so I mean, you didn't have to deal with the back and forth of like, the single parenthood and stuff. Was there any type of like, oh, thank God too at the same time? Or was it just straight why? Why?
yeah, I don't. For that back then, I don't think there was any sense of relief.
Okay.
Um, dealing like when if you get cheated on in general, like that's a hard pill to swallow in its own.
Definitely.
You're heartbroken. They cheated on you. You're a disaster.
Yeah.
Now throw this into the mix, and now by the way, that's not your kid either.
Yeah.
Holy shit! You're taking a baseball bat to the face from life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's a double whammy.
Yeah.
So there wasn't definitely a sense of relief. And even when I read that piece of paper that day, as much as I was hurting just from her cheating,
Mhm.
I still would have dealt with that pain and dealt with her for the rest of my life if I could keep him still be my son at that time.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? Because that's your child, and that little boy was my everything, man. And like I said, he called my mom grandma, and he was just yeah. It was a hard one, man. So that I lived in denial for a long time. I couldn't accept it. I didn't want to accept it. And then, but that denial, because it went for so long, like we were just talking about tonight,
Mhm.
is I started stacking up everything else with it because in that denial comes with that sadness and depressions and the rest of that and these 5 stages,
Mhm.
as we'll talk about as the weeks to come. But just in that denial stage, I was so hurting too that I didn't want to believe that I was as bad as I was, so I never got the help to deal with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what about the kid? Was the kid old enough to somewhat understand?
No, he was 3 at the time,
Okay.
and 3 years later, after that letter, because like literally that day, I never seen him again. I tried, but she just wouldn't allow it.
Oh, yeah, I said this. I remember.
And 3 years
Yeah.
later, I went to the water
That's
park with my
crazy.
cousin, and I was standing at the water park with my cousin's kids, and all of a sudden, I got a tug on the back of my shirt, and I turn around, it's him, and that was the only time in my entire life I was speechless. I knew exactly who it was, and he looked up at me and he's like, "I know you. You're Daddy Joe." And I couldn't even say a word. And I looked up and she was walking away in the parking lot from a distance.
Mhm.
And that was the last time I seen him. It was just that one time, and he remembered me. And yeah, it was definitely a tough one, man. But I lived in that, like I said, in that denial for so long that I refused to get the help. I
Mhm.
didn't want to believe I was as messed up as I was,
Yeah.
as hurting as I was.
Yeah.
I try to distract myself like we all do, like we just said, with the booze and the work. And,
Yeah.
you know, I was getting into fights and I was just, I was not good, man.
Yeah.
And rightably so. Like we said, we're human beings, man. Like that's your boy, that's your kid, that's your whole life. And overnight it's gone. And I understand. And that feeling too, in
Do
a
I ever,
different
man?
way. and your life can change in the blink of an eye, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so the denial, man, that's he really. I know, because we are human and we have emotions, and it is normal to go through those stages. Is you got to really try to be self-aware of that stage, I
Yeah.
believe, in order to try to, so you can heal and start getting through the steps to get to, the end of the 5 stages, which is acceptance.
Yeah.
But we have to go through these, and that's why this is actually a thing of the 5 stages, because we all go through it.
Yep. You have to.
But but a lot of people, I think most people, they haven't got past the first stage
Yeah.
because they live in denial. They refuse to get the help because they don't want to believe this. They don't want to believe that. And they never get to the point of acceptance to make their lives better and to deal with the things that has happened, or that they've done.
Yeah. You know what
Because
though,
they're
man? It's
living in.
hard. It's hard, you know? And what I can't understand is not only did this woman hurt you and your feelings and mess up everything about you that's going on in your head, but also it's playing games with this kid too. You know? You bring this kid into this world, lie to your partner, say that it's his kid, well, your kid in this case, you know? And then the kid grows up calling you dad and all this, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're gone. Like, talking about setting that kid up for trauma right off the bat, you know what I mean?
Well, that's huge abandonment issues.
Yeah,
Like, this kid at the time, he doesn't know, like, where's dad? All of a sudden, literally overnight, he doesn't get to see his dad ever again. That's
exactly,
all he would see
exactly.
or
Yeah,
feel. Now my dad's not around. He left me. Dad is gone. Where's dad?
yeah,
And who knows what she's telling the kid afterwards, because she's with this new guy.
mhm,
Not to mention, the new guy that she left me for back then did drugs. She didn't do drugs when I was with her. And she ended up having another kid with this guy, a daughter. And 3 years later, after I told you that he pulled my shirt at the park, I think it was 2 months after that was Valentine's Day, and she overdosed in her living room in front of those two kids and died
yeah, sad.
because he got her on the drugs.
Isn't that always the case though, man? You know? Girls with a good guy cheats on that guy with some fucking dirtbag, leaves the good guy for some guy that does drugs, ends up that girl starts doing drugs, and then either both of them are gonna OD or usually one of them ODs, and it's really sad, man, but I've heard this fucking story over and over again, dude, like, so many times.
My son, well, my son now, look at his mother,
Yeah,
living proof right there. Like, my son now, today, he's almost 14 now. His mother is a homeless drug addict on the street,
yeah,
sleeping in a tent with her boyfriend.
yeah.
So it's not easy, man. But
And that's
that
another
denial,
thing,
though.
bro. That's another thing. Your son's gonna have to deny this. Like, I mean, and he'll be in denial. Like, no, no, you know what I mean? Like, growing up, that's just another form,
Well,
man. And it's
and two,
sad.
like my son's mom has now been on the street, if you will, for at least 4 years.
Yeah,
And my son's almost 14, so when he's 9 years old, he's old enough to see that I lived with mom, and literally overnight, I don't live with mom anymore.
yeah,
Where's mom? And she shows up literally once every 2 months,
yeah,
maybe three, for half an hour.
yeah,
Like, do you want to talk about abandonment issues?
yeah,
My son back then was 3. He was 9. Like, where's my mom? My
yeah,
son had double leg surgery, and his mom didn't even come to the hospital to see him. Like, it's heartbreaking,
yeah,
you know. So,
yeah.
but yeah, it's
That's the power of drugs, though, man, and it's sad. Yeah,
and well, there you go. She and my son's mom was a very good mom. at one point, like almost like annoyed the hell out of me. She'd always call when I have, can I talk to him again? Can I talk? Like a great mother, very loved him to death, was her whole world. And then she just started going down. And then, just as we're talking about the denial, I even tried to help her at one point. Her parents offered to pay for the biggest, best rehabs around to help her, but she constantly lived in denial that she didn't have a problem.
Yeah.
And till this day, is still using, and a lot of people are doing this. Is they're in denial. They don't want to believe that they screwed up. They don't want to believe that they have problems. They don't want to believe that they're hurting,
Or that person's
because
never coming back again.
Or that person's never coming back again. I'm fine. And then they just overwork themselves, or they overdrink themselves, or whatever the case may be, or they're always, or even other things like gambling, or constantly, what is it, retail therapy. They're going broke, feeding their anxiety and denial, because I feel better if I just keep going on these trips and I keep buying these cars. Fuck, I was one of those guys, man, buying a car and flipping it. Like, you know what I mean? There's different levels to it, but it's all denial. Because you don't want to feel the way you're feeling, and you don't want to believe it.
Well, you're masking, right? That's what it is. You're masking, and then it's just a type of coping mechanism, right? At the end of the day, right? I mean, we all have some kind of coping mechanism, dealing with different things day to day. Some people, they need to read a book before they go to sleep. It's still a type of coping you know what I mean? To calm down or whatever. But there's healthy ones, and then obviously there's, ones that are definitely not healthy, right?
Negative.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Like
that kind of go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I was gonna touch on a little bit of a different type of denial, as we're saying, like what happened to me with
Yeah, like
Joe's passing.
what something. Okay, like for anyone that's new listening, is my co-host here, Eric. He can talk obviously more on it, but part of the reason why we're doing the show on his end is that it was, he lost his fiance last Father's Day, literally overnight, and it changed his whole world. And she was a very good friend of mine, and but in when that happened for you, I can't imagine. We've all lost family, but in your case, this is your fiance. Like,
It
this
was
is
my
the person
person,
you were going
man.
to spend.
Yeah, it was my person.
That was your person, 100%.
Yeah.
So in that, what was, kind of in the beginning of that, obviously being distraught on the initial news, but in the days and weeks following, like, how are you? What was going through your mind? Like, what were you thinking? Like, how did you take this in?
Oh, well, let's just go right to the day of, because that's where it kind of all stemmed from, So, um, she passed away at her mom's house, and I called her phone in the morning. She didn't pick up, so then I called her mom, and her mom was just screaming on the phone, bro, just screaming. Bring her back. She's gone. Bring her back, Eric. Bring her back. And I was almost like, is she laughing? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, it wasn't fully cluing in, because I didn't want it to be reality, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
And that was, I swear to God, that was the start of the whole denial in there, is that phone call where it almost sounded like she was laughing, because she was screaming hysterically, right? Obviously with good reason. But um just in those like seconds, it made me like, is she laughing? Like, no, this can't be real. You would never think, your person, you just saw her, and then all of a sudden they're gone, right? So definitely, like, denial kicked in right away. And then I'm like, no, no, no. Like I just woke up. Like, literally just woke up. First thing I did was call, and it just didn't fully click in, man. And then I drove to her house, which was a block away. And then soon as I walked in that door, reality kicked in. When I walked in, there was a cop standing at the bottom of the staircase, not letting anybody go upstairs because she was deceased on the ground. Her mom found her in the morning at 8:30, and she was laying on the floor. She already had liquids coming out of her. It's postmortem or whatever it's called. All that stuff that starts flying out of their bodies. When you die, you like shit yourself. All the holes in your body, liquids start like coming out. So she was already like that. So she was. They said she passed away between, was it 10 and 12 o'clock on Father's Day. It's like, fuck, was this some kind of joke? You know. So definitely, it just it it didn't feel real. I couldn't fully accept it at that moment. Even though I saw her body leave the house on um the gurney or whatever the hell it's called. Um, yeah, it didn't feel real. And they asked if I wanted to come up and see her one last time. I said no. There's no way I'm gonna go and see the person that I loved look like that. I mean, there's like the last memory I had of her was she hugged me, gave me a big kiss, told me she loved me on Father's Day before, right? So I'm happy to keep that memory. But for weeks, months, it didn't feel real. It felt like she was gonna come home. Like the door was gonna open. It was a big joke, or she's coming back from vacation or something like that. It did not feel real. Even though I know she was gone and she was dead, and I mean, when you die, it's forever, right? Like nothing is forever except for death. Like that shit's forever. You know, it 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 was. I still to this day sometimes think, oh, she's gonna call me or she's gonna walk through my door. You know, it's it's hard. I know she's gone. I'm okay with her gone. I mean, I'm okay as best as I can be in death with someone gone. Um, but yeah, I mean, even now, even though I know she's gone, she's never coming back. I still feel like she's gonna walk through that door. Which, I mean, it's been almost 10 months now, and it still feels like that. Do I know she's not gonna walk there? I hope. To be honest with you, I don't want no zombie Jules walking through my door. You know what I mean? Like, I hope she would walk through like 100% beautiful, back to normal, but that's never gonna happen, man. And that's kind of when I realized that she's not coming back. She's dead, and forever, death is forever. So that's when the denial started kind of um, spinning into, I would say, anger and depression. I mean, those two just kind of like intertwined, right? But I mean, I will always feel like she's gonna walk in on that door. It's weird. It's a weird feeling. It's it's just a weird feeling because the way that I saw her, she was full of life. You know, she gave me a big hug, told me she loved me, told me Happy Father's Day, and she's gonna go back to her mom's house, and she'll see me when the kids go home. And never saw her again. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's hard, man. But hate to say it, I'm gonna probably sound like an asshole here, but people die. It's really shitty that you know people die sooner than they should, but it's part of life. And a lot of times, if you play with fire, you're gonna get burnt. And As shitty as that sounds, it's the truth. I've lost way too many friends out there and family members to shit, because you're playing with fire. And it sucks. And on the other turn of that is the people that are still breathing and walking. We have to live with that. That, like we say in other episodes, we have to live with that for the rest of our lives.
And then those are the family and friends that are now in denial because you're gone, because of some choices that people make.
Yeah.
Like playing with fire, with the drugs and the drinking and
Yeah.
some other things that, it's not natural causes, if you will.
Selfish, man.
And it's extremely selfish. And
Yeah.
that causes that snowball effect of denial within your circle of friends and family and the people that love you.
Definitely.
Because now, and even when it comes to people committing suicide, fuck, we were there. I tried twice. But if I actually did it at the time that I tried to do it and I succeeded, I just passed on all my traumas and bullshit that I was failing to struggle with and deal with. I just passed it on to my son. I passed it on to my mother, my father, my sisters, my friends. And now look, and look at the denial that they would have to live with because I'm gone. They didn't want to believe that their son is gone. My son doesn't want to believe that his dad is gone.
But I'll tell you, that was one of the biggest wake up calls ever, man. I was in a fucking coma for 2 days, and then waking up in the hospital alive, thinking like, you do what you do, thinking you're never gonna wake up again, and then 2 days later, I wake up in the hospital. I'm glad I did because I said, I'm never gonna do this to my daughter. I will never leave her and do this to my daughter again. Like you said, it's you don't want them to go through that shit. Not only does it affect them and your family and everything, but when they get older, it's how they deal with that. That's going to affect the relationships that they're going to have either with their partner or friendships or even their own family. See, when I tried, it was because my kid's mom ran away with my daughter for 2 or 3 months. I couldn't find her. I was super depressed. I took a whole shitload bunch of pills and fucking I was unconscious in my bedroom. Luckily, my buddy came in and found me. So imagine I die. Now, when my daughter gets older, may she hold a grudge now against her mom because her mom kept her away from me for 3 months, and that's why I took my life. So it's a snowball effect. You know what I'm saying? Not only is it going to affect me, her family, but it's going to affect generation and generation. And then if she doesn't deal with that, she's going to pass that on or maybe even follow suit. When the snowball starts rolling, man, it'll roll and it'll roll hard and it's going to pick up everything around it, you know? So thank God that we're
Passing
still
on
here so we
generational
can keep
trauma.
on pushing on. Yeah.
Yeah, you pass down generational trauma and people
Wild,
don't
man.
realize that. Everything that you choose not to do, even if you're alive today, still here, and you're not dealing with all these traumas and issues that you've had to deal with in your life, you are passing that down for your children to deal with.
Definitely, man.
You are passing that on for your family to deal with.
Yeah.
You getting to that point, and I understand it more than anybody, where I just could not. Thought it was easier for me to not wake up than it is to wake up.
Yeah.
And I tried to take my life. But if I did that, I just passed on all that trauma to my kids
Yeah.
and my family. and I just added to theirs.
Mhm.
And like you said, and when your daughter gets older, if you did take your life, not only now did you just create abandonment issues just in your daughter because what my dad doesn't love me, he can stay around for me, and now my daddy's gone.
Yeah.
And that the amount of trauma that would cause that little girl
Definitely.
and causes your children, to anyone listening, because you choose, and it's hard, and I get it. It is so hard when you're in that place. I sympathize with that 1,000,000%, but it is
Mhm.
also up to you and you only to get out of that
Yeah.
and to deal with that.
Mhm.
So your children don't have to deal with that. So your mom doesn't have to deal with that and break that generational curse.
Mhm.
You know, and then so many people act certain ways because this happened to me 20 years ago. My dad treated me like that, so I'm like that. That's bullshit. Don't be like these people that did to you. Don't, you know what I mean? Like, break that. Be who you wanted them to be, to your kids, to your family. And it's a massive snowball, like you said, and it'll
Yeah.
carry over,
Yeah.
and it'll carry over. And as your daughter gets older and gets married one day, hopefully, and has children, what do you think she's passing to her kids?
Mhm.
If she doesn't deal with it because you've just put the weight of your shit on your daughter's shoulders by doing that.
Yeah.
And now she's carrying not only the things that she deals with in her life, because everyone's going to, get kicked in life. But not only is whatever happens in her life that she's going to have to deal with, she's also carrying the weight of your shit
Mhm.
or of their shit onto your kids because you chose not to deal with your shit and you're living in denial and you choose not to face whatever it is that it is you're struggling with, and you're masking it and you're avoiding it at all costs because you just can't deal with it. Well, guess what? They're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
So remember that. Your children and your family and your friends are going to deal with it. Don't worry about it. Don't deal with it. But the amount of damage that you're causing and you have no idea that you're causing. And if you are here and you don't choose that, and that's why we are doing what we do with the show, is hopefully that you don't get to the point where you pick that route, because you are loved and you're not alone, and we're here for you whether you got nobody or not. But while you're here, even when you're struggling, you have to fight through that, get through that denial, reach out, ask for help, say I got, admit that you have problems, whatever it is, and hit it face on.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're just leaving it for the rest of your family and friends to deal with, because that's exactly what you're going to do.
Definitely. Well,
And not only that, if you do that, like for me, I was in denial for 20 years with all my shit.
yeah, I was gonna ask, how did you get out
Uh,
of it? Like, what changed you? What sparked that spark in you to get out of that denial and push forward to the next episode in the whole
in
grief
my life, because
thing?
I
Well, in
finally
grief.
got to a point. I finally got to a point, and I was so broken that I looked at myself in the mirror one day and I said, I refuse to feel like this ever again.
Mhm.
And I was having flashbacks of my whole life and the the fact that I wasn't present for half of my life. I was there, but I wasn't present. You know what I mean? Because I was so lost and I was so messed up and I was on, you know, on the autopilot.
Was it,
And
was it like how when you would come and sit with me after Jules died, and I'd just be staring into the abyss? Was it like that? Like, you were just, like, like, you were there, but you weren't there?
yeah,
Yeah,
it was like a functioning addict without the drugs.
yeah,
Like I was just gone
yeah,
every day,
yeah,
but I was there and I could talk to you, but I wasn't registering half of what you were saying or retaining it
mhm.
because I was so focused on my anxiety and my depression, and you know what I
And
mean?
your own thoughts and what's going on, and you're obviously fighting yourself too, right? In your own head.
And and I had this conversation actually the other day. Uh in my own healing and all that too is I realized that when I was in that autopilot stage
Hmm.
in my own thoughts is I would come across as like almost self-centered, that it was always about me. And the reason I would come across is because I was so clouded in my own mind and thinking that I wasn't able to think about other people, and not intentionally, because you know what I mean, or take time out of my day to see how you're doing, or even the little things.
Yeah.
And then even in my previous relationships, like, well, you don't even ask this or you don't even ask that. And I didn't mean to. It's just every day was a constant battle for me.
And you're too busy probably
And
talking to yourself, right? That you're having a conversation that you're not even, you're dealing with your own mental shit in the head, that you're not there.
exactly, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And because of it, I couldn't give, my relationships their needs to meet their needs. And it was the simplest little things.
Yeah.
Like, well, you don't do this. I'm sorry, but and then I get so caught up in my own thinking and my own conversations in my head that I forget to ask about your day, or I forget. And it was never intentional. I was just struggling so bad every day, 24/7,
Yeah.
that the only thing I could focus on is what's wrong with me
Yeah.
and not anybody else. So I came across a lot as self-centered, and I never meant that. And part of my healing was, like, that taking acceptance and accountability when you finally look in the mirror. And for me, I had to look in the mirror and be like, I don't want to feel like this ever again.
Would you say
And like
obsessing?
you said,
You know?
obsessing.
Yeah, would you say you were obsessing as well? Like in your head, like same thing over and over and like or like run a scenario like 40 different thousand times.
Oh, dude, I ran the same
Yeah.
scenario all day, every day for like a month.
Yeah.
And then I would cause my own anxiety and create scenarios.
Yeah.
And then my overthinking. And then now I added, because I found the worst case scenario in every
Yeah.
situation,
Yeah.
even in the positive ones, like ones where something came up that you're supposed to, and most people would be so excited. Oh, I get to do this and that. And then in my head, I'm like, oh shit, what if this happens? And then boom, boom, boom. And I wouldn't be excited about it. And they're like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you? You know, it's like even the small things, like someone giving you a compliment. A lot of people can't take a compliment because they don't believe that in themselves, right? You can say, well, well, Joey and Eric, you're doing such great things with this podcast. And I'm not going to lie, some days when we get told this, I appreciate it and you appreciate it,
Mhm.
but it's hard for me to take in because I'm hard on myself
Yeah, same here.
still.
Same here.
You know what I mean? Like,
Definitely,
dude, for
man.
what the things that and what other people are doing in their life, and it's the same thing. Is it's when we're hard on ourselves, it's hard to take the compliments and the appreciation. Like it means a lot, but it's hard to really some days just actually like, wow, and instead I'm like, well, I'm not where I want to be in life yet, and I'm just fucking go, 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 and thank you, but I don't believe that, but thanks anyways.
Yeah,
And it's kind of like that, right? So you're always in your head when you're hard on yourself.
definitely, man. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I feel the same way. It's like I feel like I'm not doing enough, like good enough, like I know our goal is just to I would say put this content out there to, change people, and show them that um they're not alone, you know. Everybody is hurting some way somehow, but to build a community as well, right? And uh to show each other, we got to stand together and help each other. Especially in men's mental health. It's one of the things that's never talked about, and that's why we're kicking down these barriers, man. With a wrecking ball, with Miley Cyrus riding that shit. You know, like that's what we're trying to do here. We understand, and that's why I said like it's okay to feel these things. It's okay to feel the denial. It's okay to feel depressed. It's okay to feel these things. But like Joey says all the time, don't sit in it, man. It's not okay to sit in it forever. It's okay to feel it, go through that shit, and find the lesson, figure it out, find the lesson. You know, it could be a small lesson, a big lesson, but you need to learn what it's trying to teach you, because everything in life teaches you something, no matter what. And that lesson puts you right where you are at this moment. You could be, you took a left instead of a right. Now you're sitting here listening to us talk. If you took a right, then maybe you'd be listening to, I don't know, Joe Rogan or someone. You know what I mean? I mean, like, every little thing that you do in life gets you to the point you are at right now, and now, and now, and now, and so on. So it's okay to feel these things. It's okay to go through this shit. But like we said, it's not okay to sit there and just play victim. And we
Yep.
get it.
Feel sorry for yourself.
Exactly. And we get it. Like, me personally, a lot of people say, "Oh, suicide's the bitch way out. It's for blah blah blah." But I know. I know how a lot of these people feel that think about it, or try to do it. I know this. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just, I know, but it's hard. It's hard because the decision to go ahead and do it is like, it's like this. Like, it's a tiny little, you know what I mean? And as soon as you cross that line, man, there's no turning back. It's like so thin. It's like a hair thin. That's where how close that line is. And I get it, because you don't want to feel that pain anymore. You don't want to feel that. You don't want to, feel depressed or feel alone. I get it. I if anybody gets it, I get it. But it's way better to live. It's better to see the sun come up. It's better to see, if you have kids, grow, their grandchildren, you know, make relationships with people, friendships, lovers, business, travel the world. I mean, there's so much to do. It's just a matter of trying to get past that thin line of, should I do it or not? And don't do it. Because like we said, it's going to affect everybody, not just yourself. It's going to affect everybody. And then they're going to have to go through these stages, you know. And if you really care about the people around you, you wouldn't put them through these grief stages, and you would go and get some help, because that's true strength. And that's what we preach here, is reaching out, getting a counselor, talking to a friend, whatever it may be. That's true strength right there. So, I mean, fight. Don't put other people through these stages of grief, because they fucking suck. They do.
And don't pass on your traumas and your stresses and your pains to your children and to the family around you.
Yeah.
And like Eric said, I understand it too. I tried to kill myself twice, and one was standing on the edge of a hotel, looking down, thinking that I couldn't take this anymore. So if it wasn't for a security guard that grabbed me, I wouldn't be sitting here. But I'm grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we understand it. That's why we're doing what we do, because we've been there. We've been at the lowest headspace that you could be in, to the point where even with kids and family around you, that you still couldn't get through another day, or didn't think you could.
Mm-hmm.
But like Eric said, it is so much better to be here and to be alive And whether you believe it or not, when you're in that headspace of brokenness and sadness, that it is temporary. It is, and it doesn't feel like it because sometimes that shit can last for a long time, but it's still temporary. And it's only up to you on how long you're going to stay in it and how long that actually lasts. And it's not an easy journey, and it's very hard. Probably one of the hardest things you can do, to be honest, is while in that, finding somewhere up here that little voice telling you to get up.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why you need to get up. And whatever reason that is, you find it and you get up and you push, because I promise you that there are better days on the other end, because we are living proof. And never in my whole entire life did I ever imagine, after 20 years of depression and anxiety and stress, that I could sit here today. And I still have issues, we all do, but it's ongoing. But from that to the clarity that I have on how I can look at the world and be present in your day and be with that person and be with your children and actually be with them, and not just be there, but your head's way over here because you're struggling, like we said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, and that is really what you want, is the clarity in your mind to be present and live your life and enjoy your life, because I didn't know how to enjoy my life for 20 years because I wasn't present. My head was not with me every day, it was somewhere else. And it was an ongoing daily battle, to the point where I almost took my life. But like I said, it's a difficult road to get out of that, but you have to find that little why, that little voice telling you that it's not worth it and you need to get up. So, and that's why we're doing what we do. So if you're listening and you are in any of these stages of grief, or you're dealing with a loss and you feel alone, or you have nobody, you have us. So, do not be afraid to reach out. We answer all your messages, myself or Eric. You don't want to use your real name, we understand. If you want to leave your phone number, we call you. If you don't know how to find resources in your town, even though we don't live there, we'll help you find them. Because, like Eric said, it is so much better to be living than to not be here and leave your family and your children with what you can deal with. Break that generational curse. Don't pass it on to your children and your family, and get up. It's okay to not be okay, but it is not okay to stay in it. And it is temporary. So just know there are better days on the other side, and we got your back. So
Well said, buddy. Well, man, I think this will cap it off for the first installment of the different stages of grief. So yeah, we I think hit denial pretty hard, and it's like we said, it's the first emotion. I don't even know if you would even call it an emotion. I don't even know what to call it. It's a worthless. It's worthless, really. I don't know, but we hit it, and it's the first thing that you go through um, in any grief situation is denial. And like I said, like you got to figure out, you got to go through it and then figure out how to pull yourself out of that and pretty much come down to earth. You know, um, I mean, for me, knowing that forever is forever is kind of what woke me up. you know. So, I mean, it's just a matter of trying to find the tool and the lesson, I guess, in it. And that was my lesson is, you know, that shit's forever, never coming back. And it made me kind of open my eyes more about death and appreciate it. And at the same time, it's kind of beautiful, man. You know, it really is because you when it's right. Let's just say that when it's right, you know what I mean. You pass on. You've left this beautiful life, and now you're leaving it to another generation. So at times it can be, you know, it's sad at times, but beautiful at the same time because you know you paved your way for that generation, and now it's time for you to step aside and let the your other family members come up. You know, but I mean, I look at death differently. I've had it so much in my life that I understand it. I respect it. My mom's raised me to understand it, you know, and not be scared of it. Because at the end of the day, two things in life are for certain: taxes and death. So that shit's forever. I forgot taxes is forever too. No matter where you go, you're spending, right, and paying taxes. So, but anyways, man, I appreciate it. I think this is great what we're doing here. This um, grief installment. I think I hope
A,
it
a,
helps.
mi- a, min, a m- it's a mini series.
Mini series. There we go. Yes, I think it's cool. So uh, buckle up, sit down, grab your favorite popcorn, and enjoy the weeks to come because this is kind of cool. This is something new for us. Anyways, we're just mumbling now. We gotta do our thing.
Yeah, and then on that note, I will say hit us up, like I just said, Raw Minds Podcast at gmail.com. Hit us up on TikTok. Like I said, you guys are really having a hard time, man. Just know that you're not alone. We're here. Ask us any questions. You know, myself and Eric are no psychiatrists, but we have lived our entire lives in trauma and abuse and loss of children and family, and the list goes on.
Yep.
And that's why we sit here today and every other week is to try to help you guys and offer uh, just some tips and some tools that we've used to come out of that.
Yep.
So that's all it is. We're just two regular guys that care, that give a shit about other people.
Give a shit and shooting the shit.
So that's right. So Raw Minds Podcast at gmail.com. TikTok, raw dash podcast
Dot
dash. Yeah, is that it for
dot. Yeah.
TikTok?
Raw dot minds dot podcast on TikTok.
Yeah. So that being said, hit us up. Our episodes drop whatever platform you're listening to us on now. We are on every other platform. So, and we drop new episodes every Friday.
Mm-hmm.
If you can think of it, we're on it. So check us out every Friday, and you'll see us live on TikTok here as well every Monday and days to come during the week. So we're here if you need us. If you can't find good people, be good people.
And then on that note, man, thank you. Thank you always. Thank you for the friendship. Thank you. You know, and like you said, like, you know, we've been through so much. And we still go through things, you know. I mean, it's a never ending battle. It really isn't. I mean, right now I'm dealing with my mom not doing so good. You know what I mean? I mean, it's never gonna end. It's just a matter of having a good support system around you and just, just reaching out if you don't feel okay, reaching out, and that's what we do. So reach out to us. If there's any kind of topic you guys want us to talk about, feel free, hit us up on the email, and you know, we'll do a little research and slap that bad boy right on the podcast. So, yeah, man, let us know. Anyways, it's that time again. Be good or be good at it. Bye.